I'm Gavin Scott, your host. Welcome to the Stay Outstanding podcast, the show that shares wisdom and gifts knowledge, motivates you to be your authentic self, influences you to fulfill your true potential, encourages you to take action, and inspires you to step into your greatness. Creating or perfecting your craft. I've just come off of an episode with Sandhya Sriram, an agriculture cellular scientist entrepreneur from Singapore. A really great episode. So much wisdom and knowledge in there, so I highly recommend you guys to listen to that episode. Truly inspiring. And one of the things that has inspired me to create this episode was this idea about creating or perfecting your craft. So I spent 25 years in the real estate industry. I worked for people, I worked for big companies, small companies. I worked for myself. I created a small company. I created a big company. I had small turnovers, big turnovers, you name it. And I decided to leave. Now, I think the more you listen to my episodes, the better you'll get to know me and you'll understand why I left real estate. But it was basically all about passion and purpose. And everybody around me, although knowing me, I'm sure they supported me, it wasn't necessarily what they demonstrated to me. You know, they, out of some concern, proposed questions. Well, how are you going to make an income? You've never done that before in your life. How are you going to be able to achieve it? Now, as an entrepreneur, one of the things to do is to figure out along the way of the journey. As an entrepreneur, you create things, and you know, these things are businesses, obviously. That's what an entrepreneur does, and they tend to snowball. And we talked a little bit about that snowballing with Sandhya. But here's my own personal snowball. Today's episode was the first day where I was able to use the virtual background I created. Now, because of my technical challenges, it didn't take me every minute, every hour of every day for 2 weeks to create the virtual background, but it was a 2 weeks work in process. And all of a sudden, rather than having my lounge behind me, a mirror, a curtain, a painting hanging on the wall, I have something that represents the brand image. So I'm now beginning to purport a brand image. Well, of course it wasn't just 2 weeks in the running, because before I started thinking about a virtual background, I'd done, 10, 20 episodes, and I was more concerned about as Rob Moore, and there's going to be an episode with Rob, and I highly suggest you guys listen to that, where Rob's advice is start now, get perfect later. And it's brilliant advice, because as an entrepreneur, if you try and get everything perfect, you will basically never ever start. Ultimately, even the things that are perfect are not perfect. So, as Sandhya just said, just get on and do it. That was her advice, and such great advice. Now, the other technology issue I came to challenge myself with was getting the virtual background. So I actually created one, and I didn't even have my logo in it, and I was going to use that. And then after testing it and trialing it, I was like, hang on a sec. I've created a whole new logo, but I've got a logo. Why haven't I used my logo? This is kind of crazy. So I put my own logo in. I had to get a green screen so that the virtual background could work. How was I going to do that? I've got limited funds, and if you looked on Amazon at the time, green screens were anywhere from €100 upwards, really, for perhaps what I needed. And I decided that let's not press click, click now and just get it done. Let's take a little while to digest the problem and try and creatively come across a solution. So all that I really needed, in fact, was just some green material where light wouldn't shine off of it. A little bit like carpet, if you like, or something like that. So anyway, I went down to the local DIY store, and sure enough, they had a roll of this green material. So I just got them to cut some off for me, 2 times 1.5 meters, and I literally just hang it over my mirror at home. So okay, I've had to change where I sit in the room, but this green screen just goes over the mirror. And actually today what was amazing was the gardeners came for the urbanisation, and in Spain they've got these fly mows, to get rid of the leaves, and also because everything grows here so well, because we've got so much natural light, they brought the shears to trim the bushes. So I knew I couldn't do the podcast in the lounge because, you would just hear so much noise in the background. And so 20 minutes before the interview, I was like, okay, how are we going to get over this? Right, let's move to the bedroom. Let's take the table, the chairs, and we'll just put the green material over the mirror in the bedroom. And sure enough, it worked. I was able to close the windows and get far enough away from the noise that I don't think you'll hear any of the noise in the interview. So, through the test of time, I'm perfecting my craft. And to anybody that I have had as a guest on the show today, if you are listening, if it's ever appeared like I'm not looking and I'm not interested, I'm more likely than not making notes on my phone or looking at my show notes on the phone. And if you have been put off anyway by me doing that, if you have considered me to be rude or non-attentive or non-interested, please, I'm not. I'm really interested. I'm really passionate about what I do, and it's just taking me time to get things right. So with Sandia this morning, I realized that what I need is sort of a clipboard that sits behind my computer that has the questions up on it. That way, I don't even need to have my phone in the same room. These things that we call phones, they're such a distraction. And although I'd put mine on flight mode, the Bluetooth was off, the Wi-Fi was off, there was no telecom signal, I'm still ever so slightly distracted because I'm in the middle of flowing conversation with the guest, and then because I haven't looked at the phone for a few minutes, the screen closes. So then I've got to muck about with the phone to try and open the screen. It's an iPhone, so I have to scroll upwards and then try and get it to face recognize, and then if that's not happening, put in the number and get back to the question screen. Now, it's quite a controversy, this whole questions thing, because I actually really like not having so detailed the questions before my guest comes on. Because I just find that you're so much interactive, so much more interactive. There's so much more flow. But, I think when you step away from perhaps flowful conversations, let's refer to them as, shall we say, a bit more spiritual conversations, there does need to be a bit more structure. So I'm recognizing in my craft that I'm not perfect, that every time I do a solo episode or I do a guest interview, I have the opportunity to be better. And that is just such an inspiring idea. If I wasn't passionate about my mission, then I guess you wouldn't continue. But I'm so passionate that rather than looking at this negatively, I look at this positively. And you can choose to look at it two ways, negatively or positively. Which way do you look at it? Just because you say negatively, it doesn't make you a negative person necessarily. But I look at it positively. I am perfecting my craft. So right now, we're in the early days, and I really am appreciative of all of my listeners, anyone that's joined the Facebook group, like the Facebook page, become part of the tribe, really interested in what I do and wants to know more about it, anyone that's approached me to collaborate. I'm just so grateful because in turn it helps me grow and become better at what I'm doing, and that allows me to give you, the audience, the listener, more value. And the more value I give you, hopefully the more impact in your own lives you will have from the value I give. And the more impact you have in your own lives, the more you will take it to heart and it will influence you. And the more it influences you, the more it will inspire you, hopefully, to go out there and every single day, every single chance to become better, to live a better tomorrow, to create and perfect your craft. In whichever terminology we're referring, family, business, doesn't matter, social, relationships, finance, but to go out there and create and perfect your craft. So, something that Sandia touched on in today's episode, which was really interesting, was organisation. Now, I talked about this the other day. Having left real estate, it wasn't such an easy thing for me to just create this division and go, that was what was then, this is now, that is clear cut. It took me a long time to really take or make the jump, to be brave, to be bold, to go where no one else has gone before, Of course people have done podcasting before, but where I've not gone before, I can understand for people why it's so difficult after 25 years in a career in an industry, why you find it difficult to pivot, to change, to do something completely different. And it took me time. I'm in my 40s now. When I was in my 20s, I guaranteed you I would have done it at a click of a finger, but I don't know what happens between your 20s and your 40s. I think responsibility, maturity, wisdom, all these things kind of basically begin to have an effect on how you make decisions, right? So it took me a long time to get clear on what my decisions were. Now, you will hear many speakers, mentors, gurus say this, and I'm so grateful for my mentor drumming it into my head. The poor guy literally had to drum it into my head. Skip Archimedes, everybody, the one and only Miracle Man. Look him up, sign up to some of his courses. The man is an absolute legend, and I'm sure he'll also give value to you. You can find a link in the show notes. But clarity is power. So I had to get clear on what it is that I wanted and why I wanted to do it and how I wanted to do it. And here's the powerful part about this episode. Because I was 1 foot in real estate, 1 foot in podcasting, as much as I tried to create or formulate clarity, I could write it down. Look, there it is, it's clear. It was still mumbled jumbled. It was a bit of jargon sewn together. It was a fine tailored suit with a whole lot of holes in it, you know? You could see what it was meant to be, but it wasn't actually clear. And so power is clarity. And I am beginning to see day after day so clearly what it is that I have to do to create and perfect my craft, that I hope from sharing with you my experience of my journey, transitioning from one career path to another, that you can see that things do not need to be perfect, that you can see that you don't need to have every single brick of the path laid out in front of you. All you need is the willpower to make the change, the determination to see it through, the persistence to continually carry on no matter what challenges you face. And lastly, passion. You've got to be passionate about what you do. There are so many people in this world that have so much greatness within them, that can offer so much value to the world, but aren't offering it because they're stuck. They're stuck in a job that they don't enjoy. They're stuck in a job that they feel they can't release themselves from. And this is simply not true. And if you are feeling that way, guys, if you are stuck in a job, here's my advice to you. Commit to, in 6 months' time, leaving that job. Start saving now. Make sure you've got 3 to 6 months of savings so that you're not panicked or scratching around to pay bills. And whilst you're saving to ensure you can make the transition, start looking into the transition. What is it you want to do? Is it a different job that you would like to do? Is it starting your own business? But it's so important to start creating this picture, because until you formulate the picture, the path will not appear. And a lot of times people will say, I tried it, I jumped, but you didn't make it to the path because you didn't have the picture, and you turned around and you went back to your old ways and you became stuck again. And what value were you able to give yourself? What worth were you able to give yourself? What value were you able to give others and to the world by being stuck? So creating and perfecting your craft is so important. I am a complete work in progress. This show is a complete work in progress. And this creating and perfecting your craft, for me, comes down to every element that I live and breathe every day. So, for instance, what is my sleeping habits? Do I get rid of all the blue lights at night? For how many hours before I go to sleep? Does it actually help? Do I wake up feeling better? Do I have a better night's sleep? Am I consistent at what time I go to sleep? These are sleeping habit measures. My nutritional intake. I am creating and perfecting a nutritional intake that works for me. Am I consistent with it? God, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not, but I'm trying to be. I'm learning to be. I'm understanding what's best for me, and slowly I'm making the changes that over time will become the habit. My training. I'm creating and perfecting my training. On what days will I do which exercises? Will I do endurance training in the swimming pool? Will I do technical training in the swimming pool? Will I just swim? What am I going to the gym that day to do? Is it chest and arms? Is it back? Is it legs? How many rest hours or days do I have before my next activity? I'm always looking to create and perfect my craft. So I just want to say, with regards to the podcast, guys, I know that this is going places. I know that I'm going to bring you so much value. If there is a moment in the episode, if there is an episode itself that doesn't resonate with you, please don't just walk away and say, ugh, there is going to be value, I can guarantee it. And it will impact, influence, and inspire you. And I hope that you got some value from this episode. And I look forward to continuing to give you that value. So if you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, please do put them down below. Until next time, stay outstanding.